The transformation of the Blaxploitation genre. Hello, I'm McLeod from Hampton, Virginia, and I'm in the DCBS program at Full Sail University. Today I will take a look at the Blaxploitation genre from its early origins to its current state in the film industry. So sit back and gain some great information that you might not have known about. African Americans have had a long and complex history in the motion picture industry. Most early depictions of African Americans in films were demeaning, stereotypical roles of that time. Early movies showed the classic vision of the Southern life. Most African Americans were often portrayed as incompetent, childlike, hypersexualized, and criminal people. The minstrel show was where white entertainers put on blackface by burning corks and wiping it on their faces and imitated and joked slaves and ex-slaves. The very first minstrel show is said to have occurred around 1843 in New York City. The roles that were at that time looked at as positive, such as servants, mammies, butlers, etc., gave the illusion that the African Americans in this society were good just to be servants. Someone who was a clown and not to be taken seriously and only devoted to their white masters. African Americans migrated from the South in the early 1900s and changed the racial landscape of film. Now, if we fast forward to the 1960s and 70s, the civil rights movement changed the black community and brought about a sense of pride in African Americans. No longer were they going to stand for inequality, and they demanded equal rights all around. They were tired of being seen on screen misrepresented. Then came Melvin Van Peebles and Sweet Sweetback's Badass Song. It depicted a sly and confident black man who reigned triumphant over the right world. This is the first film where the black man was the hero. No longer were African Americans going to sit around and watch themselves on screen as victims and clowns. Van Peebles had independently produced the film and merged European modernism and the avant-garde with the urgent demands of black power to create a cinematic document that echoed the urban streets of 1970s America. Now, after seeing the success of Sweet Sweetback's Badass Song, Hollywood also decided to make blaxploitation films. They pumped them out like a factory, and they made them as cheap as they could. Now, what this did is it brought about a whole new genre and a group of talented African Americans and actresses. From Pam Grier, Richard Roundtree, Bill Cosby, Richard Pryor, Bernie Casey, Godfrey Cambridge, Jim Brown, Fred Williamson, Jim Kelly, Rudy Ray Moore, Tamara Dobson, Ron O'Neal, and Isaac Hayes, just to name a few. The success of movies like Foxy Brown, Shaft, The Max, Superfly, Cotton Comes to Harlem, Dolomite cemented the blaxploitation genre was here in full demand and was here to stay. Blaxploitation films attempted to reflect the black experience within a white cinematic framework. Despite the fact that the films were centered on black people, the tale was familiar to the white audience, so they were not completely alienated from it. Blaxploitation began as something potentially empowering, but due to Hollywood's involvement, eventually became a series of repetitive images with no traces of political substance. Hollywood had learned new streams of revenue and no longer needed low profits that came from the genre. In the early 90s, a new generation of black filmmakers made ode to the blaxploitation era with films like New Jack City and Dead Presidents by telling their own contemporary urban cinematic tales in a similar format. Now, blaxploitation has lived on long past what many thought was its expiration date. In 1971, it was hard to imagine that future generations would be talking about Sweetback and the genre it created 40 years earlier. Thank you. I'm McLeod.